when my mom showed up at my door after 12 years. I thought it was a miracle. I didn't know she brought a stranger who would almost destroy everything I built, using her to get to me. This is a story of how I learned that sometimes betrayal doesn't come from your enemies. It comes holding your mother's hand. Sometimes the people you think you've buried in the past find a way to knock on your door again. And when they do, it's never by accident. My name is Rosin Miller, and for the first time in a long time, I had peace. I lived in a cozy apartment in New Jersey, filled with quiet light and clean air. The kind of space that makes you feel like maybe, just maybe, all your pain was worth it. Every morning, I'd sip my coffee by the window and watch the sun rise over the skyline. I had a stable job as a data analyst, great colleagues, and a life I built from the ground up without shortcuts, without help. I had everything except closure, because for 12 long years my mother, Rebecca, had been gone. I was only 9 when she left. She said she needed space, that she couldn't breathe in the life my father built. But deep down, I knew it wasn't space she wanted. It was someone else. He was a smooth-talking contractor with a fancy car and empty promises. When she walked out, she didn't even look back. All she left behind was a half-written note and the smell of her perfume on the couch. Dad, Patrick Miller, was never the same. He ran a small diner on the edge of town. Some nights, he'd come home smelling of fried onions and exhaustion. But no matter how tired he was, he'd always ask, "Rosin, did you eat?" That man carried the world on his shoulders and still tried to shield me from the rain. Those were the years I learned that love doesn't always come dressed as romance. Sometimes it comes in the form of a man who works double shifts just to buy his daughter a birthday cake. I promised myself that I'd never depend on anyone the way Mom depended on him. So I worked harder than anyone else I knew. Through college, I juggled 3 part-time jobs, tutoring, cleaning offices, and managing small freelance projects just to keep the lights on. Every cent I made went toward my dream, to stand on my own, and I did. By 28, I was earning more than I'd ever imagined. 6 figures. Financial freedom. The kind of life my younger self could only daydream about. I even helped Dad retire early. Bought him a little place by the lake. Peaceful, quiet, safe. I thought my story had finally found its happy ending. Until that night, it was a cold November evening. The kind where the city feels too still, too silent. I was cooking dinner when someone knocked on my door. At first, I ignored it. I wasn't expecting anyone. But the knock came again. Firmer, slower, familiar. When I opened the door, my world tilted. There she was, my mother, Rebecca. Her hair was lighter, her smile softer, but her eyes, they were the same. And standing beside her was a man. Tall, sharp, well-dressed, with a smile that looked practiced. "Rosin," she said gently, as if she'd only been gone a week. "This is Martin, my fiancé." Her fiancé. I just stood there, frozen between shock and disbelief. 12 years of silence, and she shows up with a stranger on her arm, calling him family. I wanted to slam the door, but something in her eyes, maybe guilt, maybe fear, made me step aside. They sat on my couch like they belonged there. Mom looked around, commenting on the curtains, the walls, the space. Martin smiled politely, but his gaze was calculating. He wasn't looking at my home. He was measuring it. He asked harmless questions. "How long have you lived here? What kind of work do you do? You must be doing really well for yourself." The compliments sounded sweet, but underneath, they felt heavy. By the time I served coffee, I knew something was off. Then came the pitch. Martin leaned forward, his tone suddenly serious. He said he was into real estate investments, a property in Jersey City that was guaranteed to double in value. All he needed was a short-term loan, $60,000. I almost laughed, but then Mom spoke, her voice trembling. "Rosin, you're doing well now, right? It's just family helping family. You can trust Martin." Trust him? I barely trusted her. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat in bed scrolling through old photos of us, the 3 of us, before everything fell apart. I wanted to believe she'd changed, that she wasn't just back because of money. But deep down, something felt wrong. Over the next few days, Martin started visiting more often. Sometimes with Mom, sometimes alone. He'd bring gifts, wine, chocolates, even a book I once mentioned liking. He made it look like friendship, but every conversation circled back to the same thing: money. How do you manage your investments? Where do you bank? Do you use online trading? It felt like he was studying me, like every smile was a question mark. Then one morning it happened. I was at work when I got a text from my bank. Unusual login attempt detected. My heart dropped. When I opened the alert, I saw it. Someone had tried to change my password the night before. The attempt came from an old email address linked to my account, one that hadn't been touched in years, one that only my mother had access to. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. Was it possible? No. Would she? That evening, I drove straight to my dad's place. He was sitting on the porch, reading the newspaper, the same way he always did when something was heavy on his mind. I told him everything. Mom's return, Martin's investment, the bank alert. He listened in silence, his face darkening with every word. Finally, he said quietly, "Rosin, she emailed me a few weeks ago. Asked about your job, your salary. I thought it was harmless. I didn't think she'd use it against you." There was guilt in his eyes, the kind that cuts deep because it's born of love. I held his hand and said, "This isn't your fault, Dad. I don't know who she is anymore." He sighed. Sometimes, the people we love lose themselves chasing the wrong kind of love. That night, I made a decision. If they want to play games, I'd play smarter. So, I invited them to dinner in a bright restaurant downtown, the kind with marble tables and loud music. I wanted witnesses. I wanted control. When they arrived, Martin was all charm again. He talked about trust, about family legacy. Mom nodded along, her voice soft and shaky. "Rosin," she said, "this could change everything for us. Martin just needs a little help. Please, honey." I smiled, but inside my heart was ice. Because in that moment, I knew this wasn't just about money. Someone was pulling strings, and my mother, the woman who once tucked me in at night, was tangled right in the middle of it. Music fades, leaving a pause of silence. And as I looked at Martin's smile, confident, rehearsed, dangerous, I realized this wasn't a reunion. It was a setup. The night of the dinner felt different. The streets of New Jersey glowed beneath the streetlights. But in Rosin's heart, a storm was waiting to break. She had chosen a quiet restaurant near the boardwalk, not too public, but not too private either. Somewhere she could control the scene, and if things went wrong, she could walk away with her head high. She sat there, fingers lightly drumming on the table, her phone recording silently in her bag. It wasn't paranoia anymore. It was self-defense. She had spent nights replaying Martin's words, her mother's trembling smile, and the strange coincidences. The hacked account, the financial request, the calls that dropped when she answered. Everything connected now. And she needed proof. The dinner trap. Rebecca arrived first. Her eyes were red, the kind that come from crying for too long. "Baby, you look tired," she whispered. Rosin forced a smile. "I could say the same about you, Mom." Martin followed seconds later, wearing that same polished smile that had fooled everyone. He carried himself like a man who believed the world owed him kindness, because he was good at faking it. "Rosin," he said smoothly, taking her hand, "I hope there are no hard feelings. Families have misunderstandings." She looked at him, really looked at him. For the first time, she didn't see charm. She saw hunger, greed, a man too comfortable in lies. "I think we should talk about your proposal again," Rosin said softly. His eyes lit up like a snake sensing warmth. "Of course, sweetheart. It's a great investment. You'll thank me later." Rosin leaned forward. "I ran a background check on you, Martin." The table went silent. Rebecca's fork slipped from her hand, clattering on the plate. Martin blinked, his smile stiffening. "Excuse me?" "I said I ran a background check," Rosin repeated. "And you're not who you said you are." The mask cracks. His charm faltered. For a second, she saw the real Martin, the coldness, the arrogance, the predator behind the politeness. "Now, Rosin," he said, lowering his voice, "there's no need to dig into the past. Everyone makes mistakes." "I don't care about your past," she replied. "I care about how you used my mom to get to me. You planted spyware through her email. You tried to drain my savings. You thought I wouldn't notice." Rebecca gasped. "What? Martin, tell me that's not true." He turned to her, forcing a laugh. "She's lying, babe. She's trying to turn you against me." But Rebecca's hands were shaking. She turned to her daughter, tears welling in her eyes. "Rosin, is this true?" Rosin reached across the table, showing her the printed report. "He's a con artist, Mom. He's been scamming women for years, always older women, always with daughters he can manipulate for money." Rebecca covered her mouth, her breath breaking, and Martin just sat back, silent, calculating his next move, the confrontation. "Listen," Martin finally said, his tone turning sharp. "You don't understand the kind of people you're dealing with. If you ruin my name, I'll ruin yours. You think money makes you safe." Rosin's voice was steady. "No, but the police report I filed does." His eyes widened. For the first time, fear flickered. Outside, a police car idled, just as she'd arranged. Martin's words dissolved into a curse as two officers stepped in, asking for him by name. Rebecca broke down as they handcuffed him. "I didn't know," she sobbed. "I swear, Rosin, I didn't know." Rosin wanted to scream, to yell at her for not seeing what was in front of her, but she didn't. Instead, she reached across the table and whispered, "You were the one he used, Mom, not me." And as they took Martin away, Rosin saw it. The quiet devastation in her mother's eyes. The kind that comes from realizing love blinded you to danger. The fallout. Days passed, then weeks. Rosin's life returned to calm, but it wasn't the same. Her phone stopped buzzing with drama. Her apartment felt quieter, safer, but lonelier too. Rebecca called often, her voice fragile on the other end. Sometimes she apologized. Sometimes she just cried. But Rosin rarely picked up. Forgiveness, she realized, wasn't something you rushed. It was something you built slowly, with scars still visible. Her father, Patrick, visited her one Sunday. He didn't say much, just hugged her for a long time. When he finally spoke, he said, "You did what I couldn't, Rosin. You broke the cycle." The goodbye call. One night, the phone rang again. It was Rebecca. Her voice was weak, soft, as if the weight of everything had finally crushed her. "Rosin, I'm sorry. I let a man turn me into a stranger to my own child. I don't expect forgiveness. But I want you to know I never stopped loving you." Rosin closed her eyes. She could still hear the echo of that night. The lies, the hurt, the mother she once knew. "I believe you, Mom," she whispered. "But I need time to heal." "We both do." Rebecca sniffled. "I understand." That was the last time Rosin heard her mother's voice. Healing and rebuilding. Months later, Rosin stood on her balcony in New Jersey, watching the city lights flicker against the night sky. She wasn't angry anymore, just grateful for truth, for peace, and for the quiet strength that comes after surviving betrayal. She started volunteering at a women's shelter, teaching financial safety and emotional boundaries. Each time she spoke, she saw reflections of her mother, broken, trusting, lost, and every time she helped them stand a little taller. "I lost my mother twice. The first time when she walked away, and the second time when she came back holding the wrong hand. But this time, I didn't let pain define me. I learned that sometimes protecting yourself means walking away, even from the ones you love. And maybe one day she'll forgive herself the same way I'm learning to forgive her."